Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Been feeling a bit sick, so this is coming out a little bit later than I would like. But today we're going to talk about the new Tribulation record, Sub Rosa in Aeternum. I was really looking forward to this record just based on some of the singles that I had heard alone. And I've been following this band for quite a while, basically since Children of the Night came out in 2015, I think. So yeah, I've been looking forward to it. We'll start with the track rundown. I'll try to do these fairly fast so that we can get to the meat of it. And I wrote a lot. So starting out, we got the Unrelenting Choir. This is sort of like an intro track. It actually sounds pretty good. It does feel like it could have been expanded into like a full song. But it does fade into the next track fairly well. Just sort of left me feeling like it was more of a song idea that didn't quite flesh out in time, and they left it as an intro or something like that. Second up is Tainted Skies. This is one of the many singles for the album. I liked the mix of the vocals between the sort of growling and the gothy cleans. This is something that I think they've had since their last record, where Gloom Becomes Sound, I think it's called. So it does have a nice driving chorus, a cool balance between the vocals. Bit of an imbalance with the guitar solos. I felt like one was quite a bit louder and a little bit more prominent than the other, but maybe a bit of a production thing rather than a song choice. Or maybe the one guitar player just wanted to be louder and have a little bit more spotlight. I don't know. The next one is Saturn Coming Down. This is another single. I really liked the syncopated, sort of weird intro guitar line that leads into the verse. I also liked the dynamics on the snare drum specifically. I did notice like some of the rolls and stuff like that sounded really, imperfect and sort of like ramped up really well. The chorus is catchy with a really nice melody. They do sort of change it up on the second verse as well, and I thought the change sounded appropriate and it sounded good. The bridge had a nice build up to it as well, and the song structure itself was engaging, well written, and had a really nice flow to it. So I really liked this one. Probably one of my highlights from the record. Next one is Hungry Waters. Starts with a really nice, like, low-key intro with really cool layering, and I thought the bass sounded pretty good. I kind of wish the vocals during this section were a little bit softer, just because they have this such nice low thing already happening with the instruments. I just felt like the vocals were maybe a little bit one note and could have just sort of dialed back just a hair just to sort of match that, but the chorus is also not as strong as it could have been, but not terrible. This whole song is quite minimalist. They did the same thing with the guitar solos, with the solo bass line, and I thought it was okay, but I feel like it could have been a little bit more there. And I noticed that the back half of the bridge sounded really nice. I think that was one of the key moments for me in this one. It had a really cool panning effect on the vocals. It was sort of like mysterious and sort of atmospheric. It sounded really cool. Next up is Drink the Love of God. Sort of a bit of a throwback sound to this one. I got a little bit of that Children of the Night down below kind of feel to it. The clean vocals in the verse were okay. I thought it was an interesting choice to utilize them on like an up-tempo song like this. And maybe a poor choice, but we'll get to that later. The switch and feel around the 2-minute mark I thought was awesome too. It sort of like just went back a little bit, and just had a nice switch up. But I did feel overall the vocals sort of killed the energy of the track a little bit. Next up is Murder in Red. This was also one of the highlights for me. Starts off with a cool like synth bass intro. It's very sort of 80s sounding in that respect. It sort of breaks into more of a post-punk feel, and it works really well with the vocal style for the verses and stuff. It has this really cool heavy distorted snare sound. A little bit more akin to like I said, like post-punk or something like that. And then they do switch into the regular band instruments, and I thought that switch sounded good as well. The mood of the chorus is awesome, really nice harmony in the guitar solo. Just a really cool track overall. Really nice feel for them, but a little bit different. Sounded really good on the album. This leads us into Time and the Vivid Ore. The intro's a little bit but not bad in any way. The chorus, however, is very similar to Tainted Skies, and I noticed that right away. Just the way, like the tempo, like it just had like a big feel to the exact same sort of chorus as Tainted Sky, and I thought that was kind of noticeable for me. They also have that same sort of extreme change in guitar solo tone and volume as they did before. I think it's just how they produce those guitar sounds. I feel like one really matched how the rest of the tracks were recorded, and then one was a little bit different. The other issue I had was changes in volume. It just felt like the verse and the bridge were quite a bit quieter than the chorus, and the chorus was like really loud. So just a little bit of imbalance on the production side for this one, unfortunately. This leads us into Reaping Song. I really liked this one. Nice piano in the intro. Drum pattern was nice. I wrote the word nice in pretty much every note that I had on this one. It's just sort of like low key, and it's nice and simple and effective. The chorus works really well. There's a nice guitar line that leads back to the verse. There's a lot of emotion in the vocal that I liked quite a bit. Bridge had a nice feel, lots of emotion, like I said, in the vocal. And there was like a building synth guitar line happening. Also sounded nice. Last one is Poison Pages. I liked this one quite a bit as well. Also sort of a gothy kind of feel. Nice feel in the verse. The synths that come in add a nice texture. The drop in the pre-chorus really helps push the the chorus rather. The chorus itself had a nice ominous atmosphere to it, and I liked that quite a bit. And sort of it leads into this bridge section that's a little bit more psychedelic, sort of trippy. I think it worked really well within the context of the song. And yeah, I quite liked this one as well. So what did I think about it? Overall, I liked it quite a bit. It's definitely the most gothy, I feel like, of all their records, and it fits well within their discography. The clean vocals have proven to be a good addition. I believe they use them quite a bit on Where the Gloom Becomes Sound as well. I think this record sort of proves that it works really well, and his vocals have developed really well as well. The whole album is quite catchy, really good choruses throughout, has a great feel. The layering of the instruments sounds great. I've talked before about how I like how goth music in particular layers their instruments. I really liked the use of keys throughout this one to sort of accentuate some of the guitar lines. I thought it sounded good, it made sense. The drums I thought were spot on for the music. The choices in the rhythm section were pretty much flawless throughout the record. And I really appreciated the songs like Murder in Red and Reaping Song to sort of break up the feel of the record from being sort of one note. I think the experimentation of a song like Murder in Red was really good. I really hope they kind of do that a little bit more, that sort of post-punky kind of thing. I think how they write songs works really well in that context, and his clean vocal especially works really well. The negatives for the record don't really pull down the quality of it too much. There's just some choices that I feel like I didn't like as much. I thought the dynamics were cool. I did mention the dynamics before, but I did feel like some of the differences in loudness were a bit too obvious, particularly in songs like Hungry Waters and songs like Time and the Vivid Ore, just a little bit too obvious for me. I also felt like sometimes the decision to use the clean vocal didn't make as much sense as it could have. Don't get me wrong, I really like how his vocal sounds, but it can be a little bit one note. There isn't a whole lot of like, he does go a little bit higher on Reaping Song a little bit, but the overall feel of the vocal doesn't change too much. So I felt like putting it in songs like Drink the Love of God, for example, was just an interesting choice. I'm not quite sure why they would have done that and not just use at least a little bit of the harsher vocal for a song like that. And they didn't use any. So I feel like because they did it like that, it did make the clean vocal feel a little bit more one note than it could have. I think it's a good idea for a band like this where you have a really nice clean vocal and a really cool harsher vocal as well, to utilize them appropriately. And like I said, it was just, I think some mistakes were made here and there about the decisions. Maybe they're like, oh, it's a fast one, we don't have to use the harsher vocal, and I get that. A little bit more of a challenge to sort of implement a cleaner sound into a faster song and whatnot, but just, make those choices effectively, kind of a thing. It's not a bad song, really. It just, like I said, I felt like it could have had a little more energy in the vocal. That's all. But yeah, I would have liked to hear a little bit more of the post-punk sort of experimentation like Murder in Red, but that's not really a negative. That's just sort of something that I hope they explore a little bit more. Overall, I really liked the record. It, had some underwhelming moments, but it did have some really cool highlights. I think some of these songs rank quite highly in their discography for me. I would just maybe challenge them to think about their past records as well and sort of draw some of what people really liked from those, particularly Children of the Night, and even their first one, Horror. It would be kind of cool to have, a little bit of that death metal kind of thing seeping through an album like this, just even in moments, but they've pretty much gone fully into this sort of gothy heavy metal thing. Like, it has a very distinct sound to them, and I get that. I would just worry a little bit in the future about it becoming too much of sort of the same thing. The guitar parts themselves, I feel like, haven't changed too much since Children of the Night, but I do like the decisions of sort of expanding around that. Their decisions to add a little bit more sense to it, to add the clean vocals, to really sort of accentuate some of the other instrumentation like the bass, and, you know, easing back a little bit on the guitar stuff and sort of letting the song sort of write and speak for themselves. As far as number score, I think I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I did really like the record, and, you know, like I said, some of the drawbacks I think were not as deal-breaking for me as some other drawbacks from some other records. So yeah, check out Sub Rosa in Aeternum. Check out Tribulation. I think they're on tour with Opeth right now, which is a good band for them to tour with, I think. I really like that lineup. But yeah, that'll do it for me in this one. I will catch you in the next one. Until then, deuce.